Podcast.
Bum Podcast.
Between you and me.
Between you and me.
Oh, well. So, we got something new to talk about today.
For sure.
Yeah, it's going to be new and old, I guess. I don't know, man. We talked in the past about, well, sparingly we talked about, and I always wanted to really dive into it. We talked about the ROP 13. I mentioned ROP 13 quite a few times.
Yeah.
And so I really, this time I want to spend some time diving into the ROP 13 and then doing almost like a lessons learned or, I guess it is more like a lessons learned than anything from the ROP 13. And so for the people that are listening that do not know, when T was turning 13, his mother and I developed this plan. It's called an ROP 13. We was trying to figure out what could we do to commemorate T turning 13. I had a real wild idea. I think I might have told you about it. I had a real wild idea because I wanted
the woods.
Now I wasn't walking in the woods, man, anywhere in the world, but I would let you walk in the city. I was going to actually have him to walk to the city bus, catch the city bus to the metro station. From the metro station, catch the metro to Union Station. From Union Station, get on Amtrak and head to New York. And then in New York, have a plane ticket waiting for him to catch the plane back to D.C. That was my plan, right?
Yeah.
And it would been like an instant immersion because he had never done anything like that before by himself. And so for me, it was like almost like
That would have been cool, though.
that would have been cool, right? Yeah, it'd been like, him getting the opportunity to really experience,
Figuring out the world.
yeah, figuring out the world, through the different methods and modes of transportation, both public and private transit. And so it was just this crazy, wild and crazy idea that I came up with that his mother was adamantly against. So it didn't happen. And so we had to think of something in her terms a little more practical. And so what we came up with as a practical application was we came up with, we thought about 13, what we call character words, 13 character words that we,
Oh, you got to explain what ROP stands for.
ROP is rite of passage. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
ROP is rite of passage. So we did a rite of passage. But 13 character words, 13 words that we felt that should define his life, the words that he should live by. Do you remember what your words were?
I remember some of them.
You remember some? Which ones can you remember?
I can go through the list.
I don't want you to go through the list. I want you to tell me what you remember.
I believe there is. So the first one I remember is integrity.
Integrity.
Responsibility, faithfulness, what? Dependability.
Mm-hmm.
What else was on there? There was compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy wasn't one. What are the other ones I remember?
All right, so we got confident.
I knew there was a C word on
We
there.
got courage.
Okay, so I thought courage, but I didn't necessarily think that it was on there. All right, but confidence, courage,
Humility. Faithful.
Yeah,
Perseverance.
that's a good one.
Purity.
Purity.
Yeah.
All right.
Respectful. I think you might have said that. Self-control. I might have made up some words, man. Spirituality.
I didn't make up any words.
And stewardship.
I made up a word.
Yeah.
Okay. It sounded good though.
It did sound good. So those were the 13 character words. So we defined them for him. Well, we put the definition down for him, and we wanted him to kind of embody those words. And so he was supposed to study those words and figure out how either now or into the future, or then into the future, how they would apply to his life. So those were his 13 character words. And then on the tail end of that, 13 weeks to the day prior to his 13th birthday, we started this program. And so what we had done for the program was we decided that every Sunday leading up to his 13th birthday, which was on a Sunday, we were going to have a family meeting.
Mm-hmm. And it would start a new week.
And start a new week. And so we give him an envelope, and in the envelope was a task. And those tasks were the 13 things that we thought were important for him to know before we die. Yeah, essentially before we die. But like 13 things we thought he should know if he was to have to live on his own. And so it was a number of things. I mean, they covered you want and you're right off.
Time management. There was one about finances. Keeping a clean house.
Keeping a house, yep.
What else was there? I had like more in my head, but I lost them when I started the list.
Cooking.
Cooking was on there.
Yep. We had one about
project management.
No, we ain't had project.
You sure?
I'm positive you made that one up.
Yeah.
But
there was something like that.
So you mentioned Clinton.
It's the Law.
It's the Law was one of them, which was a really good one because It's the Law.
Happened on It's the Law.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Something happened on It's the Law, but
we talked about that in the podcast.
We did. But the thing about It's the Law was helping him to understand that he was getting older and he was getting to an age of accountability, and that people weren't going to look at him as a little boy anymore, and so he needed to be cognizant of what the laws were. So that was a really good one.
Oh, that's what I can remember.
So we had Finish It. So we had one like if you started, finish it. We had one about giving back, or because we had him going around the neighborhood to his neighbors and seeing if anything that he can help them with. We had one about almost like employment, like whether you want to be self-employed or whether you want to work for somebody else. And we did a week of talking about what entrepreneurship looks like and what work for somebody else looks like. We did one about around the house, and that wasn't like just keeping a clean house, but it was about
out around the house?
Like, no, not helping out. I remember it was like the things as a man, what you'd be responsible for.
Because I remember we took on like some projects.
Yeah, we took on some projects around the house and things like
the garage.
Yeah, clean out the garage. Yep, and like you're supposed to drain your hot water heater.
We built the facade around that time.
I don't remember. But yeah, around the house was one. Personal grooming was one. Personal grooming was one, and so yeah, those kinds of things. But just stuff that we thought would be helpful. Oh man, it was Home Alone. You remember Home Alone?
Yeah, Home Alone was like
Home Alone was the first time he was supposed to stay home
for an extended period of time.
Extended period of time by himself.
Was it supposed to be a week?
No, man.
It was
24 hours, man. It was 24 hours.
24. That was it.
See how far away you came from that?
I was 13. I could have did that.
Not by law.
Well, you're right.
So
okay. It's the law.
It's the law. Yeah. So just some things that we wanted him to know and embody again moving forward. And then the biggest thing was the culmination of it, which was really nice, was we pulled together 13 men that we at the time thought would play a pivotal role in his life. And we put together a ceremony.
And each of those 13 men went along with one of the character words. So, like, they were chosen to kind of be an embodiment of that character word. And something that was good to look at to see that in walk. So,
and so basically, we blindfolded him, and we had the 13 guys to line up on the trail.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about how I got set up. So, randomly, around this time when we're doing this whole ROP 13, we might have started a little bit before ROP 13.
Yeah, we did, because I had you riding the bike trail.
Right.
Yeah.
So he came to me and said he wanted to get into being more active and us being active together. And so we got bikes. I had a bike. Did you get a new bike? I don't know if you got. We both had bikes. But he's like, he wants to go bike riding and just kind of ride around. And so we worked up from like the neighborhood to kind of, let's go down the street by the store and stuff like that. Just going, and eventually we're doing different bike trails. Come to find out, he done been setting me up so he can find the best bike trail for us to do this thing on.
What in the world? Yeah,
it's not open.
We were setting up a We was trying to figure out the best trail where we could set this event up for him.
Yeah.
And so I had
him help he had the GoPro and all that.
Oh yeah, man, I had the GoPro set up.
Let's try the GoPro out. Yeah.
So, that was cool. That was cool though. And so So what we actually ended up doing was blindfolding him. And we had 13 guys to line up on this, I guess maybe mile-long trail or maybe 2 mile-long trail. And so they were set up, periodically on this trail. And T was blindfolded. His papa was his guide.
Granddad.
His granddaddy. And we'd given him a sack. And what happened was his granddaddy would take him to somebody, and the first person would ask him a word.
Right.
And the word was a character word, and he was supposed to explain to them. I mean, I wasn't there. What were you
explaining the meaning, kind of what it meant to me and all that, and then they kind of gave what it meant to them as well, and talked about that word and gave kind of words of wisdom about that specific word. And then they gave me a rock which had the word written on it, and they put it in the sack.
Say stone, man. Stone sounds better than a rock.
Stone does sound better. It sounds so much more distinguished. It was a smooth stone.
It's a smooth stone, yes.
With it was like gold writing.
Yeah, yep.
On the stone, and they would put it in the sack, and then I'd move on keep walking, and then I'd come across the next person, and we do that with the next word. So we did all that all the way down through the 13 words, 13 guys.
Get through the 13 guys, and so that was pretty cool. Just kind of trying to etch those things in his head. It's always important to hear from a second source, and so in this case, he heard character words from us. He looked up the character words on his own, but he also had the opportunity to hear each particular word from a second source and how that word actually impacted their life. And I thought that was big. And then afterwards, we actually still blindfolded, took him, and we had set up a banquet. And so we had family and friends from all over waiting in a banquet hall for tea, and we just kind of introduced the 13-year-old T to the world.
Did we do this on my birthday?
Actually,
It might have been the day before.
it might have been the day before your birthday because you had a birthday party the next day.
I did have a birthday party. It was
Yeah.
one of the few years.
Yeah. So, but it was kind of cool, man. It was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed doing it.
It was
And
pretty dope.
yeah, I thought it was impactful. So what I want to take some time now, since we've explained to you what it was.
We just explained the whole thing.
Yeah, we explained the whole thing. So now you got a picture of it, which I think is cool. Like if you get an opportunity to do this for your son, I really suggest that you do it. As a matter of fact, if you hit me up, and you need some help putting it together, I'll help you because I just think it. Well, I'm sorry. You wait to the end of this podcast. You might determine whether or not it was helpful
yeah,
or
we're
not.
gonna talk about
We're
that.
gonna talk about it. But just a plug, man. If it's something you're interested in doing, let me know. So anyway, what I really want to talk about is, you kind of heard a little bit about how it impacted T while we were doing it, and even I guess as he thinks back on it. But I want to know really how impactful it was on your life, and not just how impactful it was on your life then at 13, but thinking about how it may have shaped your life for the remainder of your time in our house, and then the first couple of years that you're off at college. So
Dang, you just gonna sit back after
I'm
that?
gonna sit back.
That was
after
a
all
big
that,
question.
Bro.
You didn't even give me time to think.
Bro, look, come on.
Let me get the short version of the question. So, how it impacted my life,
So-
not only then, but then even going forward.
Right, because so you had an opportunity to perfect those character words in your life. You had an opportunity to perfect the lessons that were taught, like it's the law, it's the cooking, keeping house, those things, all those things you had an opportunity to perfect. And so in the incubated environment where you had an opportunity to perfect them, I want to know how it affected you. Was it useful? Was it not useful? Was it something that you thought that I can do without that? And then you had the opportunity to leave home for a couple years and go off to college, and those things, that's when it really should have hit, right?
Right.
That's when it really should have hit. And we're gonna talk about this a little bit more on the back end of this, but and was it helpful in the preparation? Did it, yeah.
So, first, I guess I'll talk about then. I think it was definitely a great thing for me at 13, because it became a big moment, a big memorable thing, kind of like a big event to be recalled in your mind, kind of almost like one of those pivotal moments in life.
Right.
It just set that up to be something that was solid and stayed in my mind, more so than just maybe us sitting down and us talking about it. But there was a process, there was a ceremony, there was a banquet. So all of that kind of caused it to become like not even just a thing, but a moment in time that was captured. So I think that was really good for then and helping to cement even the type of things that I learned. Talking about how it's helped me going on, I immediately saw like two sides to it that were helpful in creating that impact. But I saw like the literature side and then the experience side. And just talking about the literature, like the words, I got to kind of understand more of the words. Like I know integrity was a big word, kind of always has been a big word, but really diving into integrity, a big thing was like faithfulness. It was dependability versus faithfulness?
No,
What
it
was
was
it?
faithful versus. I do remember. Let me.
We had like faithful versus spiritual, dependability versus something else. What was
that's the words that seem similar,
it? Right.
but they weren't. And so, just kind of trying to figure out the difference in making sure that you were able to cover.
I think it was dependability versus faithful.
It might have been.
But just
It might have been.
talking about kind of the different.
Yeah.
And so it got to create that picture for me, and as well as those things, um, just learning like I had poems that I read with it, and like things from poems that still stay in my mind that I remember I can look back on. And so just really getting an embodiment of those concepts in a physical form
Mhm.
Was great, and those things still kind of stick with me today. And even because of something like that, I'm still a big guy for quotes or different things like that. I like to hold on to those type of things to recall the memory whenever you're in a time of need for them.
Mhm.
And then the other side was, which is funny because this was kind of how it was set up, but the experience side, because we had the words, but then we also had like what the week was about.
Right.
And so even things like how we talked about it's the law, and how we had a week of talking about law and all the kind of things, and you're getting older, people are going to see you differently. And then like I don't even know how to describe it because it's not as luck would have it or anything, but
Right.
almost like it was orchestrated that same week. Something happened where it kind of solidified and cemented that
That's
the lesson that was meant to be learned. It kind of cemented that in
right.
my head through kind of an experience that went along with the lesson. And so having those type of things are things that um were just, I guess, perspective shifting
Right.
is the big thing. And so it kind of offered change of perspective and kind of some things to keep in mind, some words to keep with me, things to kind of aid me with accepting and understanding and going through this new perspective.
Mhm.
And so that's what I think was a really great kind of, they met each other very well. Oh, were you gonna say something?
Go ahead. I don't want to stop you. I had a question about. Go ahead.
I was just gonna talk about kind of going into school.
Okay. Well, before you get to school,
Yeah.
so um, there was one lesson that in particular that came to mind when you were talking, and it was Lifeline,
Uh-huh.
right? And it was about having that scripture and having that song to carry you through in hard times. And so I just thought about that when you were saying that you still have poems and stuff rolling through your head today because of it. So I was just going to make mention of that. But
Make a mention of that.
yeah,
How that was, they even played into the whole literature thing, making
yeah,
sure you have that type of thing.
right.
Yeah. That's a good one. Um I don't know have anything to say off of that.
That's okay. Going back to school.
Going back to school. So I think even just in general, kind of it was the biggest thing about it was perspective, I still would say. And so even going into school, I kind of had perspective of certain things, or this is the type of things that you might encounter, and this is what that word looks like in that situation. Or like it's the law. I understand, especially being like a college student going around, like how people look at you in like a college town.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're doing things and like, oh, this is the night where people be on activities, so they looking out for you doing stuff and that kind of thing. So
Right.
just understanding how people are looking at you, all of that kind of thing. Um, so I think it was that was the really big thing about it. It just opened me up to perspective, especially because it kind of came like I wasn't expecting it. So it wasn't like this thing that was set out in the future, but it was kind of like a full process of walking through. It really felt like I was transitioning into something new.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like it wasn't like you was looking forward to a Sweet 16.
Right.
It was like
It was
okay,
like I got here. It's like, all right, now it's time. You're about to turn 13, and you need this.
right, right.
This knowledge is something that should be imparted to you, almost like your inheritance, almost.
Yeah.
Because I'm reading a book that's talking about inheritance of a kid when he turns 16.
But that's cool because we're gonna talk about that too, but not necessarily today. But that's one of the things I want to talk about as well. I mean, and that's good because it was organic. It was like, man, this dude's about to turn 13. Like, we really need to hit him up with some new knowledge, and so that's what came out of it. And that's one of the things that we've always tried to do. I mean, just being intentional and keeping our mind and our eyes and stuff on the cusp of like on the pulse, like keeping our finger on the pulse of what's happening and what's going on, and making sure that if something is revealed to us, that we really are intentional about helping you to get it.
It's funny because that's a word that I was just that I got too intentional.
Uh-huh.
It kind of showed me, just seeing how intentional you guys were with it. It kind of showed me how being intentional and meticulous with different things in my life, and so that was another good thing from that.
Okay. And so I think, again, we gave you what we thought you needed at the time, what we thought was going to be important. So my next question for you, going through that processing and being able to glean from and being able to utilize the things that you learned, what are some things that we missed that like you wish we would have given you?
No, dang, you just cut off.
Oh man, yeah.
I was
Like
expecting more.
like say for instance, you find yourself on a college campus or in a college town, and you found yourself unprepared for the moment, and it was like, dang man, I wish I'd have known that, and not just like I wish I'd have known it, but knowing in your mind, dang man, I guess my daddy could have told me that. Not necessarily blaming me for not telling you or blaming
Yeah.
your mom for not telling you,
Mhm.
but like, man, if my parents would have told me this, I'd have been so much more prepared.
I can't think of anything that it's like I wish I would have been told that, really. One thing is just of, even though for the thought process of any rite of passage, so like anybody, it would be different for any one person
Mhm.
if they want to do it. Like it's tailored towards who the person
Your
was.
child, yeah.
Right, your child. And so I know a big thing about mine was kind of like strength in self, almost.
Mhm.
Being able to like trust myself and be accountable for myself is a big part of mine. Um, but which was great, which is how you raised me, which is why I'm able to kind of stand on my own like that.
Mhm.
But one thing that I didn't have as much perspective on, especially since I was the only child and all that, was interaction with other people,
Mhm.
which is something that I had to, not had to learn, but kind of like learn and develop and experience when I went off to school, was more developing, interacting with people socially and different people socially. Um, I mean, that's just because of consequence of who I am and all that too, because I'm really introverted. I keep to myself.
You was introverted, so you got to college.
I feel like I got more introverted. At
Well,
college.
man, please. Okay, whatever.
High school, there was those. Yeah, not even.
No,
I've always been pretty introverted.
Yeah, you were real introverted in college. I mean, in high school, like we couldn't get you to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why you having a hard time with COVID. Because I mean, this is how you lived your high school life.
This is pretty much how high school.
Yeah,
was.
I mean, it's like we couldn't get you to go anywhere. I mean, you did gigs or whatever, but other than that, I mean, you really, stayed to yourself. And so, yeah, I mean, and just as a parent, just realizing, because I know for me, I saw some things, not necessarily that I missed, when you went off to college. So some of the things that I know you might have missed, I couldn't have given you. I put it like that. I couldn't have given you. I wish that I would have had, like we said, we put around you 13 guys, and it just so happens that the 13 guys that we put around you didn't necessarily have the same mentality that we had, but we came from the same cut of cloth, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so we saw the world not the same, but not too different. One of the things, we all came from the same basic social economic standpoint, right? And so that didn't allow you the opportunity to have a viewpoint from a hood mentality. I just put it out there like that. Say a hood mentality. And so which I grew up, I had that. You see what I'm saying? And so I had the
Nobody's really talking about the streets.
Yeah, nobody's really talking about the streets with you.
Which
I mean,
even was a big part of that kind of like social interaction type of thing that I was talking about.
and so like for me, I saw some things that you were doing in college, and I mean, not bad things, but just things. And I was like,
Oh, you talking about money and stuff?
well, no, not necessarily. Well, yeah, I should have been talking about money because like the way you left leave money laying around, I still don't
leave
get
money
that. But
laying
anyway,
around.
so but I mean, like even just like the thing with the club scene, like when you were talking about promoting and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just seeing things like that, not necessarily negative things, but like, bro, you ain't been set up for that. And not that I wish I would have set you up for that,
I did pretty
but
good.
huh?
I said I did pretty good.
So you think. But anyway, I don't know because I don't judge how you did. But all I'm saying is those are the things like when I was looking, I was like, dang, man, I ain't set him up for that. Like I ain't teaching to look out for that. Like, and so I found myself like giving you many sermons or like many lectures on like Well, dude,
You
I
call
mean,
me after. You sure you know what you're doing?
yeah. Like, you sure you know what you're
Like,
doing? Because if
yeah.
you did, let me give you a quick lesson on it. Because I can give it to you. Just didn't think you'd ever need it. And
Like,
so, and I guess you're gonna always, as a parent, always have those moments where you're gonna see, man, I ain't giving that lesson. Now let me see if he'll listen to me now.
mhm.
And there wasn't a whole lot of those. There was a lot of reinforcement of stuff that we had already given you. Because and I always tell people, man, like at the age of 13, really, I tell people your kids pay attention to you when you're there in your presence. That's just the way it is. And people have always fought me about that. I say, you know what? Um, your kids are always going to stray from their roots. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, excuse me. They don't always stray the same distance from their roots. Some people stay close. Some people go way out. The key to it is making sure that you give enough breadcrumbs so that no matter how far they go, they can find their way back. And so that's what I think we tried to do for you. We tried to provide breadcrumbs with me understanding that, hey, this kid's not going to always do exactly what I tell him to do. He's going to go out, he's going to start feeling himself, and he's going to start moving at his own speed, at his own pace, or whatever. But just making sure, one thing for me, I want to make sure that my voice is always in your head. So, like, even when you out there, when you get ready to do something stupid, I want you to hear your daddy saying, dude, for real.
And I'll be doing no
Like,
stupid
I
stuff.
mean, I'm not
so.
saying you do, but I'm just saying, like, if it comes up, because, like, I can remember when you first got to college and you were saying, man, I'm so mad that I see kids doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, man, I would, but I know I shouldn't be doing it. And that makes me mad because I remember you saying that.
I don't remember saying
I bet
that.
you don't, because then you came back not long afterwards and say, man, I be looking at kids doing this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, y'all messing y'all life up. I ain't gonna do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted in your head. I mean, I wanted you to always be able to process, because I never want to think for you. But the thing I think is, there's this what is it, saying or whatever? He who's enslaved by the compass
has the freedom of
has
the
the
seas.
freedom of the seas. And so that's one thing I always wanted you to have in your head. Like, I wanted you to be enslaved by the compass, because if you have that barrier, if you have that marker inside of you, you really don't have to concern yourself about where you go or how far you go, because you have something inside of you that's always helping you to be in control. And I think that that's the one thing that we were able to give you, that what was beneficial for you. Now, on the other hand, like I said, I mean, there are some things that I saw that, like, COVID-19 has allowed you to come back home and us to reinforce some things. Because what I think, and I want your perspective on this, what I think happened is, like, you heard what we said, you know what I'm saying? And it all worked in theory when you weren't in it. But then when you got in it, like, you was like, let me test this. And when you tested it, it was like, oh, it ain't bad as I thought it was going to be. It ain't bad as they said it was going to be. And you went and you persisted further in it.
I don't know.
We don't
I
know.
don't know what to talk about.
I okay.
I'm thinking about it.
All right.
Were there any things? I think I treated school as an opportunity to try out life, but from a different perspective. Try out, like, understandings of life. I spend a lot of time looking at how other people operate and why they operated that type of way, or the things that other people type of doing, trying to understand just other perspectives than my own and the ones that you all had before me and that y'all had given me.
Mhm.
So I spent a lot of time looking at other perspectives, and I guess I guess I could see sometimes where it's like, oh, it's not as bad as they said, because even as parents, I feel like sometimes you have to
Overhyped.
yeah, overhype.
Mhm.
And so when you at first, like, that's the picture that you have of it, but then when you see it in practice, it doesn't look exactly as dire, exactly as big. But I don't know. I guess I just experimented more with seeing things than actually experimented with necessarily doing things.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna give you a doing thing.
Okay.
All right. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like the kind of thing that I'm thinking about. Like, say for instance, because your mom used to always come to me with every night you was buying a soda.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, my wife, if y'all don't know, she's very fiscally
She's
responsible.
stickler.
Yeah,
finances.
like she's a stickler for finances. And
We had nothing to drink, bro.
well, I mean, I got it. I didn't
Amen.
care. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you what I told her. Like, I would tell her, I'd be like, I mean, you know what? Maybe that's his coping mechanism. Like, everybody else is out hanging out drinking a soda, and if he gonna spend $1.75 a day on a soda, ain't gonna kill him, ain't gonna kill me. because maybe that's the thing that he's using. Because again, it was your first time being away from home. You're in this group setting with all of these people. And if the worst thing you're gonna do about $1.75 soda, I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? Now, to her credit, it showed a pattern that was an alarming pattern, and that was my thing. My thing was
the
showing
pattern
the
that I was
pattern.
getting back late.
Well, no, not a pattern, because this is in pre-college, so you were in the dorm.
Pre-college.
Yeah. No, it wasn't them. No, I wasn't even going to the parties when you was way across town when you supposed to be in the dorm. That's not what I'm
Oh, I
talking about.
never did that.
Oh man, come on, you was in IHOP at 2:00 in the morning. What was that?
I mean, I wasn't supposed to be in the dorm.
Anyway.
I could have been.
Anyway,
I wasn't skipping curfew or nothing.
the point is, but the pattern. So what I asked her to do for you was like, hey, just
The cost of it.
no, not even the cost of it. Just wait until the end of the summer. Let him know how much you spent, and ask him if he persisted in this manner. Could he keep up for the whole 4 years? Because to me, that gives to a pattern. And so instead of stopping the individual acts, because if it was a lesson that you were trying to teach yourself, and it was only $1.75 to learn a day to learn that lesson, is that expensive?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if it was worth spending $10,000 your first year in sodas, which I mean you didn't, but I'm just saying, if it was worth it, then no harm, no foul. But if you look at it at the end of that time and say, man, I spent $10,000 in sodas, I could have spent that $10,000 somewhere else. Then that helps you to make an independent judgment that I did the wrong thing, as opposed to us to continue to tell you that you did the wrong thing. And that's one of the things I think I tried to do. I'm still trying to do for you as your father. Like, I want you to know I'm your father. I'm your father, Luke.
Whatever.
But I'm your coach. You see what I'm saying? And so I don't want to be your disciplinarian. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not at that era in your life now. It just so happens that you're back in our house full time because of COVID. But I still need you to be developing the mindset of being independent and not dependent. And so I'm your coach. I want to be here for you so that if you need to talk about something, like, you can talk to me about it. Like, we can talk like we are not necessarily on the same level, you know what I'm saying? But talk like I don't want you to have any reservations about talking to me about real life stuff, because like that's what I'm here for. And if I stay on you, if I'm constantly in your head that I'm your disciplinarian, you'll hide stuff from me. And I don't want you to hide stuff from me, because again, bruh, you're on your own right now. Like, your consequences, your choice is your consequences.
Right.
Now your choices are no longer my consequences. And so I want to help you make good choices, because you're gonna bear the consequences. Yeah. So ROP 13, and so I mean, and again, this is for the listening audience. I mean, I suggest anybody get an opportunity to put it out there. I mean, do it, man. I mean, because it's only helping develop patterns and building. Because I got another saying: you can't bake the cake and take out the eggs.
Yeah.
It's baking eggs into a cake that will never be taken out.
I think having a nice, strong moment to capture, for you to look at, your foundation is a good thing to have. So I feel like RP 13 was a good time. Like, I can capture that moment of time in my head and see a big part of the foundation that was laid for me, in that moment. And so I think that's always beneficial to have, because even if, like, you as you were saying before, everybody kind of strays from the path, but you're leaving breadcrumbs. It's almost like ROP 13 is a thing where, dang, I'm down bad right now. I'm kind of straying from the path. Let me look back at this one moment in time, and that's a good way of, like, me reconnecting and finding my way on that path. Like, I can look back at RP 13 instead of having to search through all these different points in my mind and in my life that I can remember. It kind of gives me this moment that encapsulates all of that. So I think that's what is really good about it.
And it's interesting. We used to have this pastor, and he used to talk about Kodak moment. And so it's almost like a Kodak moment.
Right.
It's like a Kodak moment. That's cool.
I believe in Kodak moment.
You believe in Kodak moment. So as we wrap this up, there's going to be another level to this. And you mentioned it. Give me just real quickly. You said something about building a legacy.
Building a legacy? I don't remember, man.
You said something about something that you were reading about.
Inheritance.
Inheritance. There you go. I ain't want to say inheritance because it sounds like I'm going to give you something. But
and you ain't.
So what? Yeah, I'm not. No, I done gave you all. I'm going to give you RP 13.
Yeah.
You got a thick bind over here. So I mean, what was that all about?
It was just talking about without getting into the whole other side of it and all
Mhm.
that, but just he experienced something when he was younger, and it resulted in his mom having a consequence, and so now he's older at the age of 16, and he's out on his own now at this time, and he meets his uncle. His uncle is talking about, well, you're 16, you're a man now, you'll be like treated like a man basically,
Mhm.
and so the same way that you got away with it and your mom took a consequence before, it's gonna be
Okay.
different now. Like
Okay.
it's for you now.
Okay.
They see you
Yeah. Okay.
type of thing.
That's good. That's
So-
relevant. That's relevant.
And so it's like, so now that like we know that you're at that point of manhood, we need to start looking at your inheritance. What was given to you to be able to deal with these things because you weren't privy to that information before.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yes.
Is that a book I might like reading?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. You ain't get that from us then. Anyway, just what the direction I was going in with the inheritance is, was having a conversation with a friend today, and somebody I grew up with, and we grew up, we didn't grow up middle class, and so, but being middle class, trying to leave a legacy
Right.
and trying to develop an inheritance for his children's children. And so that was one of the reasons why I actually wanted to talk to you earlier is I think I'm about to be more intentional about that now because it's not something I've been necessarily intentional about before.
Mhm.
I've always said, I mean, like, money means nothing to me, and it
Right.
doesn't. It really doesn't. And there's a reason for that. I mean, there was a time in my life where I'd do just about anything for money,
Mhm.
and I didn't like the man I became. I didn't like the man I had become because of that thirst for money.
Uh-huh.
And so I had to lose the thirst for money in order to become a better man. And that's just always been the way I am. And so which is like it always caused some kind of dichotomy in our home because like somebody from a fiscally responsible wife to somebody who don't care nothing about money.
Yeah.
It's just but we're about to become more intentional. I'm about to become, because she's always been intentional. I'm about to become more intentional about that whole generational wealth, that whole
It's actually an interesting concept that I've even thought about recently. Recently, as in like the past couple months or whatever, just sparsely here and there.
Mhm.
But just the idea of inheritance and generational wealth, and even looking at generational wealth from the perspective of as Black people,
right.
because it looks different.
Yeah, it does. So
There's some dynamics there that are interesting to me. So we could talk about that on a future podcast.
yeah, and I'm gonna bring in at least one guest, maybe two, and we're
be
gonna
cool.
chop it up. So yeah, we be on the lookout for I guess generational wealth is what we'll call it. I guess. All right. So Bum Podcast
Bum Podcast
between you and me.
between you and me. Holla.
Holla.